Welcome back to Hash Talk with Hash Pie and Friends, folks. So glad that you could join us here at the Content Creation Studio. I've got a very personal episode today. I've got one of my good friends, good associates that I've worked with throughout the years. I'm very proud of him right now. I've got Madison S from Solos Extracts in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
What up? What up? Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming here, man. It's
Thank
so good
you.
to catch you while you're in town.
Yeah.
I know you've got quite a background in the industry. When I jumped in, we were instantly melded together as friends. I know that if we didn't meet in the industry, we definitely would have met outside the industry.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For sure. Because I know we probably crossed paths before. We just didn't even know it.
A couple concerts, something like that.
Absolutely. You know, we're like-minded individuals. You know,
Absolutely.
and so it was a breath of fresh air when I got to finally meet you and work with you in the industry. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
it was.
appreciate that. You too, bro.
Yeah, man. So, you know, we just want to hear at Hash Talk. We kind of talk about a little bit ins and outs of the industry. We do a lot of history, and I like to do a little background on folks because a lot of people who bust their ass in the industry, they don't get the recognition that they deserve. People don't really recognize how much they put into it, how much of the SOPs and the processes that they actually write, and that the companies just take credit for.
Absolutely, you know? Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot that goes into it, you know. The industry didn't start on the, you know, in shops. It started on the street. So, you know, there's a lot of.
Yeah. How do you think all these SOPs started, and how do you think people learned how to breed the plants? And what they liked is because people were doing it in their houses on the black market.
Right.
You know?
Right. We were risking everything just to learn how to, you know, grow plants and make medicine. You know.
Yeah. And now they want to say, well, if you've been in trouble for this before, you can't work in the industry. Well, fuck you. If it wasn't for us, there'd be no industry.
Exactly. We're pioneers. We're founders, you know. I mean, I started making hash at a young age. I'm like 16. My parents were cool. You know, I knew some people. So, you know, I got the jump on it early. But, you know, I learned and grew with the industry and learned from a lot of people and still look up to a lot of people. But, you know, I watched them and we put a lot into it, you know, a lot of time, effort, innovation.
And I know you've probably seen some. I know that we are definitely, you know, pioneers of this legal industry, and you know, some in the black market too, in the private stuff. But we kind of grew up around other pioneers, and we saw people who were blazing the trails for us to learn and to do these new techniques. You know, I remember running to old school hippie growers, cultivators,
Absolutely.
seed hoarders.
Love that.
You know, and
The culture, that's what we really mesh together well on is the culture. You know, we have a lot of similar tastes in music and scene in general, you know, and cannabis was a huge part of that to begin. And
I love how cannabis brings all the different types of music together. Absolutely. I mean, I'm just grinning right now because you can have a Deadhead tour coming through, and then you can have those same types of crowd in there going into a Juggalo concert.
Exactly.
And people are like, y'all get along? We're like, well, yeah, we get along. You know, well, what brings you together? Well, you know, we like good beats and camaraderie and cannabis.
Cannabis, yeah,
You know?
camaraderie through cannabis, you know?
Yeah, because it just doesn't take one type of music to go and hippie out in the woods.
Right, exactly. I mean, you can take mushrooms anywhere and listen to any kind of music.
Absolutely. So let's backtrack a little bit. So what was your first experience with hash? Was something that was other than like a smokable flower?
All right, so my first experience with hash, I was in culinary school, and I got put into culinary school because I caused a ruckus in high school. So they were like, well, you can learn everything in culinary school that you can in high school. So anyway, I did that. Met this dude, Joe. Joe was a chef, younger dude. And we kicked it off. He was a paintballed with like Cypress Hills dudes. Was that the Stoned Assassins back in the day?
Yes.
And he's like, hey, let's go smoke after school, you know? So we go out to the car, and he puts this big old fat chunk of black tar with some like green keef on it. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And he's like, that's bubble hash. So I'd heard about it. I'd seen High Times. I'd seen all that shit. But I never seen it. So he threw that on there. I can't remember being so high off that. Like, Dal's got me a couple times, but I was like, damn, threw me through a loop.
So your first experience was actually with a local bubble hash that was made from like homegrown stuff. And
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that, right?
totally. Yeah, it was.
So not even like an import type hash or anything.
No, it was out
Okay.
of the hills outside of Boulder. You know.
That's dope, man.
It
I like
was
hearing
fresh
that.
here, homegrown, Colorado made.
Yes, yes.
And it kicked my ass, yeah. And I started buying it after that. Everything I could get.
Yeah, they were covering with keef and like making it easier to handle and
Yeah,
things
little
like
gram
that.
balls.
Yeah, I remember those days. And then I remember when we moved on to fresh frozen and then it being real gooey, or then even mixing a little bit of oil with it, making the jelly hash.
Jelly hash, that's one of my favorites, man. I put that on my resume, even though it's kind of like a novelty kind of cheesy item, you know? You get both the best, best of both worlds. You get your non-solventless and your hydrocarbon extract, and I mean,
You want to talk about a full spectrum?
yeah, dude, you're getting it all. And I mean, I've had so many experiences where people just got too high. And I mean, when I first started making it,
It's like the speedball of marijuana because
is.
you're either going to be
hard.
really rushing and really high, or you're going to be really stoned into the couch, or just going up and down, you know?
exactly. You're spending one or the other. I had a couple of those. Here, eat some chocolate. You'll be okay. Take some deep breaths.
Yeah,
and
no
just focus
doubt.
on that dot on the wall.
So bubble hash rolled and keef was your first experience in hash.
Right.
Cool, right on. And then,
As far as making it goes, it was ethanol hash.
really?
Yeah, I found out about ethanol hash.
So you already had some growing experience though, right?
Yeah, well, I started growing pot like out in the backyard, you know,
Uh-huh.
and little places around town, little guerrilla grows and like nooks and crannies around town.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Oh, respect. And I started doing that and hustling with whoever I was hustling with back then, and then I heard about it in like a Skunk magazine or something like that.
Yes.
And I was like, I could do that. It makes perfect sense. You know, you're washing the stuff off of the plant matter. Perfect sense. So I boiled some down, and I was over at my dude's house who supplied the pot, and man, we smoked all of it. We just sat there all weekend smoking hash. And after that, I was like, I could do something with this, you know? And because it wasn't around, you know, it just
Right.
wasn't there. So through a family friend, I was in his garage one day, and he's in a wheelchair, or was in a wheelchair, and he had some bubble bags sitting in the corner, and I was like, I saw those in National Canographic. Bubble Man, BC Bubble Man, he's making it in Jamaica with the Rastas out in the woods. And I was like, I know how that works. So can I use
Dude,
those?
that's a great article, by the way. Shout
It
out
is.
Bubble Man.
Yeah, respect.
And
dude.
the Jamaicans
Fucking
hauling kilos of
ice
trim.
and trim. Yeah, dude,
Square
it was
buckets when they
awesome.
got round bags.
It was so
Yeah,
inspiring when
yeah.
they were making it out of bud, you know, and I was working with trim and who knows what, swag. So, yeah, I saw it, and I asked him if I could use them and try to make it, and he was like, yeah, it's a mess, it's hard to do, but go for it. And I just made some great hash. He was like, here, you know, here's all the trim. And he had access to trim from all over the place, all over the, you know, Denver and Boulder area. So I started doing that, and then I...
So is this like an ethanol evaporation? So you're just like letting it boil off?
Yeah, with the ethanol, my first try, or the first like style I was using was just in a pot on a
Let it
convection
evaporate.
burner,
Yeah.
and you just took it out back and put a fan behind you and just blew it, you know.
Put a grease screen over to keep the flies out.
Keep
Yeah.
it from popping or anything getting in it. Exactly, the bacon trap.
Yeah.
So, yeah, dude. I actually tried using those for straining big batches of diamonds recently. It works really well. You pick this, it works great. So, but yeah, the bubble hash came in after that. Started doing it, working with dispensaries back in the medical days when you just kind of walked in and
You could sell them a backpack full of weed or whatever. Yeah.
my pops would drive
Those are the
around
good
with
old
a
days. I wish I
truckload
was
of
here
weed
then.
and fucking, you know, hey, here's what we got, 10 pounds, whatever, you know. And then after that, I heard about butane hash, and then
So with ethanol, would that come out green?
yeah, well, when I first started doing it, I get it reds and oranges, and you can get it different colors now. I figured out, you know, saturation and temperature.
That's dope. So that was like, that was like some original RSO going right there.
It was. I didn't even know about Rick at that time. I just knew it was hash, and I just I was Cottonmouth Kings infatuated.
That was those
cannabis
old
community.
Quizzo methods.
Yeah.
Quick
exactly.
wash,
It
man.
was-
Man, you're bringing back all these memories.
It was on, what was Emerald? Mark Emery's old website that he had with all the heads on it. It was like Wally Duck and Mark Emery and Bog Seeds and
Yeah,
just
that's
all these old school. And then he got shut down. But that's what I grew up on. Was that like
that was cannabis culture.
Cannabis culture? Exactly. Yeah, hush, hush, it was all like
Yeah.
tough to find. And that's one thing I really liked about it was so exclusive, you know.
And then we had the birth of International Canographic. They pretty much took over. I know Cannabis Culture was Canada. They had their magazine. They were like, I preferred that one to HT, and I was
More
totally
informative
into it.
for
Yeah,
sure.
but then they got shut down, so it really sucked. But then they kept on the Cannabis Culture Bookstores or Mark Emery Bookstore. That was right there, so you
Right,
could still
right.
go there and get the information. But International Cannographic really picked up the slack, and they allowed the forum and people to go off and moderate and do all the learning.
Right.
And that's where we
how I
learned all
learned
the
a
new
lot of
methods.
stuff,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
I mean, growing. I mean, a lot of stuff. And then,
That's where we got all our crosses too. So if it wasn't for places like that, we wouldn't have a platform for people like Res Dog and Gypsy Nirvana to
Kim, all those guys.
yeah,
man.
to trade all their seeds, you know.
Yeah, Res Dog. I haven't heard that in a while.
Old school, yeah. I will throw the names out, man. I've got a memory like a motherfucker. I'll throw it out there. So yeah, those are those early days. The quick wash Quizzo for those people listening stands for quick wash ISO. So quick wash alcohol method basically, and you pour it through and you let it evaporate out, and then you got hash left over. You scrape it and you smoke it.
Yeah.
Very crude methods, but those were the early days. Yeah, and we've come a long way since then. So then you're in the meth. So you're selling to dispensaries. You're backpacking it. I love that. The
Right,
Old West,
right.
man. Those were the days.
Loved it.
And then so the industry starts to tighten up a little bit, you know. So how was the badged industry for you? What was
Well-
your first badge job?
So I was in it before the badges were a thing.
We don't need us taking badges.
They like asked us to have our med card, so
They asked
they were
politely.
like, "Hey, you have your med card available in case like the med or the Fed comes in, whoever, you know. But I started working at Broadway Live Well, and I started working there back in like 2000, end of 2009.
Okay.
And I was just growing, and a friend of mine got me an interview, and I brought in some goo balls, little
Yes,
cookie
yes.
goo balls with the peanut butter and everything, and brought those in, and they were like, "All right, cool, you know some stuff." They're from California, a lot of the people from California in the very beginning were so cocky, but they were like, "Yeah, we'll give you a shot." So I started growing and doing all this stuff for them, and they were like, "We'll get a kitchen in." This is back when we just had panda paper walls and a 40,000 square foot warehouse, which is do it all in there. We
You
had
could
water
open blast
everywhere.
inside.
Oh yeah, we were open blasting PVC tubes for the first like 2 months, and then somebody was like, leaching is a thing, and we're like, oh, okay, cool.
But it's
So-
food grade.
Right. That's why, so we got some stainless steel ones made and some glass ones. We started getting those blown, and so I started working with them, and I would just get. Well, I went in there one day, and we used to smoke in this little walk-in freezer that was just like in the middle of the building because it had no cameras. Right.
Perfect. I used to smoke in freezers all the time.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's perfect. You keep it cool even on a hot day. So I brought in some of my hash. Then it was like bubbleberry butter, and it's the first batch of butane hash I've made successfully. And I brought it in. It was nice, solid butter, and I showed it to them, and they were like, "Where'd you buy this?" And I was like, "I made that." And they were like, "Can you do that for us?" I was like, "Yeah, man. Pay me a little bit more." So they paid me a little bit more. Started making hash for them, and I just sat there all day, man, with master case, 96-pack cans, fucking Newport, Vector, whatever we get our hands on.
Popping
at that time,
bottles,
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So we went through that, and at first it was just me, and then Dan decided him and I started Top Shelf Extracts, and after we left Broadway Wellness, after we started working together. But at first it was me, and then he came, and we started working together. And he was a hustler. He is a hustler. So I mean, he's got.
So those are good days. So
you know
yeah, I
what I'm saying?
remember.
Like, he killed it.
I wasn't here until right around 2014, middle of 2014. But yeah, you guys were creating all these new SOPs, and I mean, you guys were open blasting inside, no flow hoods. You were fucking.
Garage doors, backyard. I mean, anything. That
Once
we
the
could get, like, a
closed
medical
loop started
patient
coming,
with a
though, there
safe
weren't
place.
even. There wasn't even recovery when closed loops first came out.
No.
I mean, you guys were doing like.
So how it started? Go ahead. I'm
It
sorry.
was. So yeah, I remember when it came. I think the first one I saw was back to Skunk Farms.
Tunisium was the first one we used.
The tabletop Tunisium. Yeah.
It took like 3 hours to get you an ounce of black goo.
Uh-huh.
And then Dan, he's always researching.
It's all passive recovery.
Right. Well, before even closed loop, we figured out we needed to clean gas.
Yes.
And then we were like, let's get these tanks. And then we figured, you know, you could connect these tanks to a system and just cycle it. And then it just exploded after that. No pun
It was probably like a car mechanic first, right?
Yeah, dude.
Because when I was in Texas, they're like, do I do this with ACs all the time, man? We just hook the gas up, bring it in and out. I'm like, okay.
I won my first cannabis cup making that shit in a ball jar with a freaking brake bleeder to vac it, you know? And then we would throw it in a toaster oven to warm it up.
Yes.
And we'd throw it in there and vac it. And we'd take it out and put it in there. We did that, 2 days all
You said
day long.
Cannabis Cup. What year was that?
So the first one out here in Denver, 2010 or 11.
And you
Forget.
competed in that? You
Forget.
competed in that one?
Yeah, so Dan and I and the crew at the time, drawing a blank on everybody's name right now, sorry, but Dan and I through Broadway Wellness and All Greens off of Calumet over there.
Yeah, all greens.
They supported the material, and then Broadway supplied the funds for the entry and all that, and the booth and whatever. And then we made it, you know, and we entered it, and we had no idea, you know, we were confident, but we got second place, and that just gave us so much confidence. And after that,
First time in,
yeah,
second place.
right.
You know, that's good. So now we're just going to I just want to take a little second to talk about this.
Yeah.
How many awards, championships, trophies have you helped win? Because I know you've had a hand in a lot of this because your methods and your teams,
Right.
and we've worked together on some stuff. I just want the people listening to kind of listen to this and how much you got.
Yeah, so like one kind of way to connect that into what you were saying in the very beginning with how we kind of, you know, pioneered things, we put in a lot of effort to come up with these products. And shit, man, what'd you say?
How many awards? Right off the top of your head,
the
how
awards.
many awards?
So the first one was that one I just talked about. The next year, Top Shelf and I took, we took the first place the next year after that. And then...
now they're just starting to stack. You're
right.
starting to
So
get.
I think all in all, Cannabis Cups, Caregivers Cups, 710 Cups, Secret, all those cups and all that stuff, I think on paper I got 24, first, second, third, best overall.
24. So that's
Or
2
best
dozen.
tested.
You got 2 dozen awards in there. See, this is where I play the Ric
But
Flair
hey,
music.
shout out to everybody on the team that helped me do that.
Yeah, it's always a team effort, you know. And
There's a lot of people. I drop names later.
I like to point that out. It's always a team effort, you know. And with 24 awards, you know, and I mean, I know what it's like doing some awards, but with 24 and all the different teams and people that you've worked with and different facilities you work with, now's like the time to like play that Ric Flair music because you come and you're like, the 24 time, yeah. So no, good job on that.
Thanks.
You know,
I
and
appreciate that.
that was a good time, you know, because you did good. So now I remember.
It's a fun time.
So I moved to Colorado in July 2014, and I worked in straight to a trim room, and they sent me out to a grow, but then they shut down, and then I remember I got hired the day before Christmas at the Green Solution where we worked together at, and then my first day was the day after Christmas.
Right.
I kind
of remember that because we hired like you and one other person. It was holidays. You know how holidays work in companies and shit. But yeah, I remember that.
You know, and I was excited because my second interview with the lab, not with the fucking HR piece of shit who doesn't know anything, is I got to go to in the grungy ass basement, you know, fucking rubbing shoulders with everybody and go into the little office and get interviewed by you and another guy. And all of a sudden, you know, they're talking about background, like, all right, well, you know, he's got a background. And then, you know, I start learning about the awards and the competitions that you guys do working together at the company. I'm like, that's where I want to be. I need to get my name on something like that.
Right.
I need to get some notoriety in this industry. And I made that my goal. And then so didn't matter how little I was getting paid, didn't matter how shitty I thought my fucking upper management
passion,
was.
man.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? We got a crew here, you know, and it's good to come in every day and hang out with these motherfuckers. And, you know, so it's good. So we stuck it out, and then boom, you know, I'm working my way up a little bit.
Awards too, didn't
Yeah,
you?
absolutely. And then we worked together. So I had some solventless awards. A couple of them there. I had some high tested. I had some second place. And then I remember I did that rosin, and I called it Sour Diesel Shatter.
Oh yeah, we were doing the
They were like, "This is
rosin.
BHO." No,
It's not.
test it.
I do remember it, man. Rosin, that's a trip, dude.
Those were the good days, and they just throwing them off like that, and that makes them look at it. When you say something, when you put something on there for that shock value, and then they want to look at it, then they're like, "Oh, that makes it stand apart." So it did its purpose, what it was supposed to do. And then the only one
It was
that
sexy.
Yeah, oh, dude,
I
I
mean,
loved
at the
it.
time with the innovation of what it was and like how unique it was at the time. I mean, I still got pictures of it.
Yeah, and I pressed the 120 bag to make that. Yeah, it was great. And then the only one that beat me above that was the hash that we sold to Rare Date.
Yeah.
We sold them the hash and they pressed it.
We processed it and then we processed it for them. And
Yeah,
then,
no, that was great. Oh man, but yeah, so there was a good team there. That was a real solid team. I mean, so there was the Cannabis
lot of
Cup
passion in
THC
that
Awards,
team,
dude. There was. That's why I stuck it out, dude. We learned so much, learning together, so many different techniques. We melded together. Yeah. We wrote SOPs for a company that took credit for it. But so what? We got to learn.
We learned. That's exactly it. And that's I don't hold any grudges against any of that anymore. Right when it happened, obviously it hurt, but. I look at what I learned about industry, man. About corporations, about just people in general, managing damn near 60-something people in the end. And, my position was hard to put a title on. But
dude, seeing all those different cogs to make that machine turn from the kitchen, the grow wasn't part of it, but the grow sending the materials over, and then you would see, from solventless to hydrocarbon to refinement to alcohol. Just everybody had their own job to do it, and they made it run smoothly. So that's the heart of a company,
Right. And we had camaraderie too. You remember we did like field day. We did scavenger hunts, field days, barbecues. We paid for that out of pocket. Shout out to everybody, all the managers out there who were a part of that.
Yep.
That was fun. And like, that's what, it was important to us.
I like some of the innovations you guys come up with. So I remember so we're running ETS. So shout out ETS gang.
Shout out ETS.
That's what taught me how to use a proper closed loop. Some of the stuff that you guys would make that ETS would take on. I mean, you guys were making plastic burp cups to go on.
Oh man, so the burp cup got us actually locked out, tag out when we got shut down for that stupid. So the homie Will, I can't remember.
It was Will.
It was Will. So
Will
and Alan. We were having problems with the circulator, the old yellow school bus circulators. What they called?
The Care Saver.
Care Saver, yeah.
Electronic recovery machine.
Yeah, they work sometimes. So we had issues with air in the line, and it was messing up the flow, and things were getting cold, and we were having like frozen pots and whatnot, and slow recovery. So they came up with a burp cup to put in line, and all the air would just come out of that cup because you're clicking in those little quick connects, wah. And it just kind of affected it over time. So, yeah, we put this Gatorade bottle, a white Gatorade bottle, whatever that flavor is, white cherry, and we put it on there, and we set it up, and it worked perfect. We're like, sweet, this thing's running great. We're not going to break it again. I have to get it repaired. Fire department comes in like 3 weeks later, and I remember whoever told them was proud of it. They were like, yeah, check it out. We did this. And they're like, it works great. And they're like, it avoids peer review. You have to disconnect that, lock this out and all that. And it was like 3 days we couldn't run that machine, but we had a couple of machines. So
no, that's great. And I've never seen a team pull 20 runs between two machines. That's fucking ridiculous.
Shout out to
Alan, fucking Brian.
Brian. Man, we had so many people, right? I'm trying to think of the names. We had we built within too. That's why it's hard to remember everybody. We had Jake, we had Dan, all kinds of people. So, but we tried to build with everybody within. You're like, you said, you put in the hard effort and the work, and no matter how much your management recognized it and fought for it, the people above us, they know the ins and outs and how to, manipulate and control and keep people in certain positions and da-da-da-da. And that's, what we battle with, I think.
So much talent, though, and so much, I don't want to say wasted talent, but they just wanted to waste our time with the talent that we had there. I mean, when we had people like Harry in Refinement running the Roto, he was telling, shout out Harry, man. I know you're doing your thing.
Today. You got a new phone number.
Oh, dude, we got to hit him up, man. I love you, Harry. Miss you, brother. But dude, this motherfucker was saying clear shatter in 2014 when everybody's doing that shit now. He was like, bro, I could make this shit clear. And we were
dedicated his shit to that, man.
You know, and nobody was fucking with that back then. And so what they were doing,
he was pulling terps out of like de-waxed fucking panel and shit. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, man, that was. So when I say talent, man, I honestly mean that. There was some really good talent there, you know.
Yeah, I would say missed rather than wasted, because it's hard to dedicate yourself and put all that effort into something that you may not have for very long. You know, I mean, you could be with the company and be like, here, let's set this thing up, and then you get it running real smooth, and everybody's happy, and then they're like, all right, you're out of here. And that happens to a lot of people. So it's, you know, the camaraderie and the team make it kind of work, you know. If you have that, there's really no reason. But, you know, again, who you working with and, you know, how much they're willing to help you out in life.
So you have a lot of experience extracting and then management and running a team. You know, you're really good at it. You made a team production go really smooth. If there was production numbers there, we met them, even though if they were crazy and we had headaches, we'd work long nights and we make them. And even when it come down to packaging and restickering and things like that, and those are all horror stories and stuff, but
fires. We got to put the fire out.
Yeah.
All right. Another fire, guys.
Well, all right, tell me, do you have any good stories, funny stories from extractions or from the different jobs you have? What are some of the funniest or scariest or something that you'd like to scare?
My scariest one is going to be my first fire. I've had two. Fire was scary. We were open blasting at the back door of that place I mentioned earlier.
Go figure.
And so I'll just be honest. I mean, we're sitting there, and me and the one homeboy had gotten to work, and we were gramming shit out. We were gramming some gunk, and we had it on like we're getting dabbers, and you heat your dabber up, and I just got paranoid about having a lighter in my hand. That's how long I've been doing this when I get into these old stories. And we were, you know, dripping it off into the dish and weighing it out. I had my headphones on. Dudes came in. We had most of the stuff set up. But long story short, I didn't realize that they started blasting. And they were at a 9-foot table. And it had panda paper on it. And they had the extraction on this end. And we had water and all the processes to the other, all the way to the end. Well, finishing up, you know, so I can start doing whatever. And I lit that lighter. See fucking blue spark. And then you hear like ladyfinger firecrackers, not too loud. It's just kind of like and it sucked all the air and just blew the fuck up. And we all got like our mustaches and eyebrows and shit burned. And that was the day of KushCon back in the day, before it was like actual cannabis material at competitions and at events. And I remember Dan was like, "Oh, bro, you fucked up." And we had people there. Shout out to Earl Chalice, Ernie out in LA. He fucking put me up on some game back in the day, and he was there. And Jeremy was there, and nobody had a fire, and I was the first one for all of them. You know, I set their first fire, so they fucked with me hard. And they put me in the garden for a month as punishment.
Yeah,
and,
it happens. It happens to the best of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I could name 5 really good lab guys, and accidents happen. But that's why there's rules and there's protocols in place.
Exactly.
And like open flames and lighters aren't allowed, and we don't open blast for
Black
one.
market hustle's cool and gangster and all that, but this is safe. And if I'm gonna do it every fucking day, I'm gonna do it in a C1 D1 booth. I'm gonna do it.
Yep.
Dressed correct. I'm gonna do it with all the proper stuff. You know.
My worst horror story / funny story was, I guess it was when we were gramming out there at the basement, Green Solution and Nectar Bee infusions, and we had just gotten the bigger ovens, and
the AI, that's all
and I was in between my washes. I was like, all right, I'll refine some patties, and I pulled it out, and I'm doing it on the table to get it from the parchment, and I do like this, and my back hand lets go, and I throw it across the fucking lab. And it was the biggest patty I've had since. I was like, oh shit, filled this whole parchment. Luckily, taco it on top of each other, but I mean,
Lucky. Yeah, you are.
Oh my God.
There was a few a few things that hit the floor in that basement. There were some significant things that hit the floor in that basement. I remember, without naming any names, in 2 days, 2 over 1,000-gram dishes of pin oil got just knocked off the rolling rack somehow.
Oh.
But one of them stuck. There was a dirty rolling rack in it. It got stuck, and I pulled it off. Who knows? I forget. It's a long time ago. But, yeah, that happened. One time, Will and I had my badge. It was lunch, and everybody was gone, and I was finishing up before I went to lunch. And I leaned over, and I usually kept my badge like in my button shirt right here, or in my pocket or whatever. But it was right here. I was in a hurry. And I lean into this warm patty, and my badge gets stuck. And I'm like, oh, shit. And I've already got it halfway off the paper. So now it's starting to, like, sag. I'm yelling for Will to come, and he comes, and he's, like, laughing at me as soon as he comes in. He's like, I got you. And he picks it up and leans, and he gets his badge stuck. So we would have got it off the cameras. It was hilarious. Somebody had it on download of it for a while.
That's great. That
was funny.
Dude, man, if we had a camera crew back then, that would have been
I've been
a
saying
show,
it my whole
man.
life. I wish I had a fucking camera. I had cameras before these phones and everything. I was the guy. Parties.
That crew.
I got stories. I
man.
miss that style. That era of.
Yeah. So
dude,
this is like, 2014, 2015, just killing the game, killing the game.
Parties,
we've
fucking
developed all these
sessions.
different products. I remember we were talking about jelly hash earlier, we had the
Live resins,
the
jelly
dookie
hashes.
roll. Yeah.
You guys were doing live keef, which is basically like a fresh frozen
Yep. Live sift.
CO2 sift, and then dried that out. That was fire. Ice wax.
Dude, I remember when breaking
pocket
rosin presses, the t-shirt presses, and then we got the tortilla press.
Yeah, you were like, we got to get the tortilla press. That was funny as shit. I remember because.
And then we used it for BHO afterwards.
Right. That's right.
And we made the little pie crust and make perfectly round pizza crust.
That's funny, dude. We did so much there. And I remember when you and Ruben.
Shout out Ruben.
Yeah, shout out Ruben. Got the opportunity to fill in the role in your position after the person who was in that position before had left. And you guys just really put a lot. It was your opportunity to shine. You really did. In my opinion, because rosin, when I was in my book at that time, was a totally different product. And then
There was no refinement to it. Everybody was making it look shitty. It was just hitting. There was no good equipment for it. Yeah.
So you guys came through, and I mean, you got the consistency up. You got multiple consistencies. You figured the temperatures. You did it organically through trial and error and firsthand experience, and that's what so many of us have done, and not just with the products, but with the culture and with the scene, not the scene, but kind of what makes the cannabis industry attractive to work at, right?
And there's love put into the product. When you love what you're doing and you're learning from other people who love it, you're putting that technique and that love back into it.
You get your terps up and your potency up. Put that love in there. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You do.
Nobody,
especially if you use it as a medicine, man.
I mean, nobody wants a robot or somebody that has nothing to do with it.
I really don't. And once you've been in the industry for a while, or just using cannabis and hash, you can tell. You could tell when it's, shitty product to start from. And if you can get good product to start from and you really try it hard from that, and you're not just like, oh, it's good. I can just, do it the same way I was doing it. But now you're like, oh, what can I do with this? This product's 10 times better than the last shit we had. Yeah. And we figured out a lot of stuff with, just as the growers got better at growing, we were able to make different consistencies that, the grower who was spraying fuckloads of neem oil, we couldn't get nothing solid, Right, and we can absolutely get them called out because everything comes out in the wash. And that's what I love about processing, and it connects the growers to the lab and the processors, and that's the type of connection that you need, and you're only as strong as your weakest link, and so you got to have that strong ass chain. Yep.
And
good communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about it's all about good product. So that's what I liked about competitions. I think that the good thing, competitions can be frowned upon depending on which competition it is, who's throwing it, and the sponsors. But what I liked about it was it made us go out and be creative and create a new product and work together and to create new things. You know, if it wasn't for these competitions, we wouldn't have sped up the process of the different rosins that we were making.
True, good point.
To get it out there.
Absolutely. I mean,
and all of the hydrocarbons as well too. You know, because then we had the better shatter refinements. Then you picked out the better strains, which made better things. Just like at the Green Solution, man. They fucking Allen and that fucking blueberry whip wax. You know, that fucking kills it every fucking time. You know, and just like on the rosins, people know that things like the GMOs and the cakes and things like that will always kill it, you know? So.
Yeah, I mean, shit. Did you know what a terpene was? I mean, I heard it.
I remember when it came out.
Chemistry and in culinary school, or in references to aromatic, and you know.
Never heard of it until the cannabis industry.
Yeah, so we were around to see this whole thing come from basement backdoor swag, you know.
Remember the first terp separation off the live resin runs?
Out of the roto?
No, off of the when we switched over to propane.
And the fresh
separation.
When we put it back on the heat and all the oil came out of it. Started sucking that up in 1 ml syringes, and we were like, here, sample that. It was just one of the best tasting.
I mean, I'm not gonna try to humble brag or anything, but I am. But you guys were the first people, the first team to achieve a terp separation like that. Nobody else was talking about it or bragging. People will brag about that shit. They'll take a picture and post it right off the bat. You know, nobody else was doing that shit.
There was cannabinoid separation at that time, but terpenes was, you know, that came about by putting.
This was before the HTFSC, ABCE, FBIDEA, all that bullshit.
This is when we were blasting fresh frozen in a tube in a column that didn't have any chiller on it, and we were wrapping.
Liquid nitrogen rags.
We did that. We got those the injury like first aid flexible cooling pads, like the chill pads. You know, we wrapped those around it. We would freeze fucking towels with liquid nitrogen. But we were figuring out fresh frozen, and you know, I know there's people out there in the country and probably across the globe that were experimenting at that time, and it is regional and. But, you know, I'm looking back at it, and you might be right. I don't remember terps being around.
And nobody was doing that.
But that was a bunch of people putting their heads together, had a ton of passion, and, you know, had chemistry knowledge and background. And
that's people accepting other people's opinions, too.
Oh, that's so
you know, and they're putting the ego aside and like, oh, dude, you know what? You're in a better position to make this call, and we respect that, and we're going to go with that. And you get so much fucking further that way, man.
Well, people came with, you know, Scotty and Harry one day, they came to me and they're like, we've been doing like homework. And I'm like, you've been working outside of work? Good job. That's what I want to see. And that's what kind of, you know, catapulted the industry was those types of people and given all the resources at that time, and it exploded.
With that type of work ethic for being kind of treated shitty by your employer too.
Right.
You know, so you know, shout out to everybody fucking do that, you know?
Right. I mean, and a lot of people didn't even know what the circumstances were, you know, like I had an employee that came to me then and he was like, man, I just moved all the way from home over, you know, all the way across the country to come out here and get into cannabis, not because I'm a stoner, but I really believe in it and I'm passionate about it. And he's still employed at, you know, at the old spot. But he came to me and broke down, man. And he was like, is it worth it? And like, do I have it? And I was like, man, you're killing it. Keep it up. You know, there's always going to be haters, but like until they can prove you wrong, when you can prove yourself that you're right already, then fuck them, you know. And he stuck to it, and he's still there, and he's still kicking it. I think he's one of the last originals.
Hell yeah! And, it's hard to stick it in this industry, you know. There's not a lot of immediate payoff, you know. So if you can stick through it. This is what I tell everybody getting into industry. If you want to get into the cannabis industry, be prepared to start at the very bottom, slowly work your way up to where you need to be to start climbing faster in about 3 years, and then start showing what you can do, because you're going to have to pay these fucking short dues, and then start showing that's where your knowledge and everything start coming out, and just do it.
Right. You know? And then, like, I have a suggestion as far as that goes, and it's just like he said earlier, is be humble, be hungry, but also, you know, drop your ego and give people a chance. And I mean, not too long ago, I had a coming to realization of how back then I was so arrogant, and I had won so many accolades at this point, and I was cocky, and I didn't give a lot of people some of the opportunities that I wish I would have back then, because there's some of them are still successful. Some of them hate me, but some of them, I just wish I would have been more.
It doesn't matter if
open,
they, even if they hated you, if they disliked you, you still helped propel them.
Right, that was the goal. I mean, that passion, and it was like we create the industry through that passion for cannabis.
So let's get a little bit into a little bit more of the, a little bit afterwards and stuff. So you're in Oklahoma now. I mean, a lot of everybody I talk to is here in Denver and Colorado area. So let's talk about Oklahoma. Let's talk about your journey outside of Colorado. How was that? How was the transition into another state?
Okay, so Oklahoma is interesting. Oklahoma is a different social climate.
Toklahoma,
Smokelahoma. And boys rolled the joints all wrong. So it was interesting because, I'm an outdoors person. I've always been an outdoors person. I saw a good opportunity to enjoy it out there. A little easier than here, considering the mountains. It's flat land out there. But as far as the cannabis industry goes, I went out there for a training, and I saw how sketchy shit was, like how people were still saying shit that we heard in 6th grade and like lure about cannabis, and they were still saying it like that's fact. My uncle's uncle told me that one night, and I was like, damn, they're still so uneducated about cannabis out here. They're doing things dangerous. They're using the wrong equipment, solvents, materials. Some of the material, man, I was brought literal rotten bags of fan leaf that smell. When you leave your bubble hash on accident, maybe
it smells like feet
somewhere, and it rots, and that funk. And people would bring it in, and they try to sell it to you for fucking $500 for a trash bag.
Ooh.
And you're like, this is garbage. And he's like, well, someone just about better get them all outside. So you got hustlers out there that are different. Like I never experienced that there. I don't know. It's just a different kind of hustle. And then the quality. So what I've realized is the folks out there weren't exposed to the quality that we have been here yet. So they'll settle for a lot of what's better than they had 2 years ago, and it's safe, and, so they haven't really been exposed to what I would consider quality cannabis. And
it's like mids country.
It is. It really is. It's like Oregon. I was talking about it on some stuff today, and I mean, I've seen more pot out there than I've ever seen.
So I remember when everybody started going out there when they first went legal, it was like I could see the horse and the wagons and everybody going to Oklahoma. Totally. They're like, we're going to where the weed is at, and so it was like $2,000 licenses for dispensaries, grows, labs, and they're like, we can do this. We can turn this 7-Eleven into a dispo. I'm gonna sleep on the floor.
I thought it was 2010 again. I was like, I've got my grow tent and 2 lights, and I'm gonna grow this shit all quick. I'm gonna hustle it to the shops, because when I first came out there, it was $2,000 for a license. You could just, backpack it and whatever.
But it was shitty stuff that they were bringing in genetics from everywhere.
There are good growers now.
So absolutely. I'm glad that people like you went out there. You're bringing your SOPs. Right. Quick shout out. You got Dave, Rare Extracts.
Yep,
he's out there,
boy.
man.
He's literally right across the street from me.
I'm so jealous, man.
No, we get
shout out Dave, man. I remember you were one of the first people I met at Grassroots. I remember, man, you came up and you had that solventless and you heated it up on the glass iron on the E-nail. It was like a glass, like a iron for clothes. Yeah, and so it was for slabbing out.
Okay.
So it was like a clothes iron, but it was made out of glass. It was a little tiny guy, and he would set on the E-nail to get warm. Right. And then he would slab out his solventless on the parchment, and then he would wrap around the blunt. He was like, "Yeah, here I'm Dave. Here's my card." And I was like, "Oh, cool, man." And then that was right when I first started at the Green Solution. So shout out, Dave. You're a cool guy.
Always been cool, man.
There's other genetics guys that are going out there. that went out there. So I'm really proud of those guys.
Hell yeah. I mean,
Apothecary Extracts is out there. So.
Apothecary's out there. Kind Love's out there.
Kind Love, yep.
There's a handful of folks who've moved, and I mean, just on the inside, there's a lot of big companies who own a lot of companies out there, you know, from other states. So
is the technology catching up out there? Are they spending the big lab money? Are they bringing in the big money machines? Are they doing it correctly?
Yeah.
Good.
There are companies out there who are going to be giants in the future when shit goes legal, which, I mean, I'm thinking 3 years or less, if not this year. You know, who knows? But that is an obvious structure being built right now, which is really interesting, just being, you know, privileged to a lot of the information I'm privileged and seeing some of the people who are coming around. And
I see the quality's getting a lot better out there.
Yeah, the quality's getting better. The companies are coming through. There's a lot of like mom and pops and backyards and, you know, Winnebago hash makers and stuff getting shut down. They can't hack it, or not hack it in a disrespectful way, but it's difficult to, you know, afford to do this. And that's what happened out there. Here's what happened. Everybody thought it was going to be easy money. And they're used to growing a little bit of dope in the summertime, you know, get them through the wintertime, hustle a little bit here and there. I could do that on scale. No, no, you can't. I've broken hearts. People, you know, we've harvested went to a dude's grow. He's so proud of it. All organic, so on and so forth. We get there, and it is better than the year before, but, I mean, I was sad because he put so much into it, but he grew his plants all lanky and fucked up, and he could have just really killed it if he knew what he was doing. But he was very proud of it, and I was like, dude, we're not going to be able, like, off the amount of land you told us you were growing on and the projections we've made, these plants are tiny. And he's like, man, but they're so much better. Like, they are better, but they're not going to, you know, they just don't. A lot of people have put everything they own and all their money into it and just had to sell.
Yeah, and that's where experience comes into.
Full-on grows sell for $70,000. And all you needed in there was somebody who knew what they were doing. Yep. These companies could have been so successful with the jump that they got, with those connections they had because they're local and they got all this, you know, and they got options. But they just didn't know how to grow weed.
Yeah, and that's why somebody like you who has a trained eye, who knows what it's going to take to have a good product from grow to dispo, and then from grow to lab, back to the dispo, you know, and even when it takes it back to when we would pick out plants for processing. You know,
yeah, I love that, dude. That was so cool.
And that's what it takes to accelerate a company. You know, so when companies take on people like you, you know, they're really benefiting. They're making the correct move, you know. And so shout out, man. I'm really glad you're out there making a move. You're helping things progress. If it wasn't for people like you out there, things would be moving a lot slower out there.
Well, I mean, respect, same to you, man. I mean, I think we're all innovators in our own rights out here. There's a lot of people in Colorado and a lot of California. But in Colorado, you know, we were the first ones to actually be recreational. And just the opportunities and the money that got dumped into it and the equipment we were allowed to use, or, you know, and the freedom we were allowed to
Oh my God, the equipment! I can't believe
we came up with. Yeah. And then now look at that, like what we use, like you said, the t-shirt press, right? What we're using nowadays to make rosin, and like how close were we? So if we would have jumped on that too.
So what about the future? So what do you think the future for processing is going to be? I always like to ask my processors. I know, you know, we've gone from beating plants to sifting to washing to hydrocarbon. What do you think's next? You know, I've always said that it was kind of like a acid-base extraction because the government watches those chemicals and things, you know, and that's just like strict, quick to isolation.
Right.
But is there any other methods out there? Do you think there's new, without giving away anything proprietary?
Yeah, I could. So what I've heard and seen a lot of recently in the last 2 years is isolation and separation, and customizing cannabinoid compounds and cannabinoid mixtures for individuals based
cocktails,
right? Yeah. And I'm seeing a machine that's.
I've heard of this. It's real. Where you could just choose your profiles and put it in there.
That's the theory. So, but they're fractionally distillating out all the different, you know,
choose your
compounds
fractions
and everything. So it's a bunch of little vials, And it's kind of like a distillate machine, but with, you know, different temperatures and shit. It was cool. I was there to talk about ethanol extraction, and they were like, way advanced. And I'm like, what the? Why'd you call me? I don't even know what you're doing.
No, I've heard of this machine where you go and it puts a vial out, and then it'll put out your base, you know, like your THCA crystal, and then it'll put in your HTFSC, you know, so your liquid terpene in there, and then, you know, so you can make your, or if you want CBD in there or THCV, you know. That's
the goal with that equipment. And when I saw it last was probably 2016, 2017. And I was a short consult where I just was like, I can't help you guys. You guys are way above where I'm at right now. And I was like, damn, we gotta figure out what they're doing, you know?
That's like that Coke machine where you can choose your flavors and shit.
Right. They showed it to me and they're like, hey, that's it. And they kind of gave me like quick, and I was like, wait, can you tell me more about it? No? Okay. So, but it was cool because it separated them out, mixed them up, and that was their goal. And what they were trying to do at that point was figure out, you know, how many different cannabinoids they could separate out. Because, you know, back then we were still figuring out what different temperatures.
And they're still discovering different cannabinoids too.
Exactly. So, I mean, look at all the clears and purples and
absolutely.
Distillate stuff that's coming out right now.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, not everybody gets to hear about this machine and that technology. I think that's probably definitely where we're going. And as for consistency, I think it's going to be more like on the solvent sides, they're doing this mechanical separation so you can add your terp separation back to it and get your different layers, and they call them like different flans and things like that. So you got your layers.
Yeah, that's the next niche item I think is going to be on the market in the next few years is that personalized cannabis product. Yeah, you need something that's not going to make you anxious or you know, whatever the case may be. We could do it all day. But as far as the cannabis industry, I mean, as for operators and extractors and stuff like that who work within, it's really going to be like, you got to be honest with yourself and see what your true value is. What can you offer this company? Are you just, you know, there to make hash, but you want to get paid with somebody who manages, creates SOPs, keeps orders coming, and just, you know, if you want to get paid what management gets paid and you're just doing what extraction does, unfortunately, the way it's created nowadays, I just don't think we're ever going to be able to get that big money that we used to get back in the day.
Coming from a hiring standpoint, like, and from you, from a management standpoint too, you know, it's like operations manager, facilities manager. I get a lot of these folks who come in like, well, I'm going to school for this. I'm getting ready to graduate. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you're going to dedicate going to college and for getting into the cannabis industry, have a goal for when you get into the cannabis industry that hasn't been met yet. So come in and come at your prospective employer and be like, okay, I'm suitable for this job. I can do this, but I think we can take this there. You know, I have this theory and I have this idea. We can do this and we can take this to the next level. And these are the ideas that I want to do. And working in your lab and working together, we can make this happen.
Right.
You're gonna open some fucking eyes, and that's gonna be your foot.
And be an innovator, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And come with, you know, some paper. Be like, look, this is what I figured out.
Yes.
And come with the theory. Come with it. Don't just come with an idea. Yeah. Come with, hey, this is how I think it works. This is why. This is and do it in a professional manner. And if you get shut down the first few times, then take it. You know, nobody wants to cry, baby. Yep. Just like keep going, keep trying.
That's the future for cannabis, folks. That you got to do it. Yeah, do it. So cool. Well, right on. Well, I think that's going to wrap up for this one. This is a really fun episode. It's so good catching up with you, man. We could share stories all night long. We'll have to do another episode. We'll share more stories, man. I've had a blast working with this guy. I've learned so much. I've got so much respect for Matty Patty right here, man. Thanks so much for joining us, my friend. Thanks for tuning in to Hash Talk with the Hash Pie and Friends, folks. It was a very personal episode. Thanks for listening in. Until next time, we'll smoke again.
Peace, y'all.